We are currently looking at CenterVision's Oasis Manager. The Oasis Manager is a performance reporting tool. It is ITIL aligned, and for today's video we're going to talk about leveraging it for doing incident management and a little bit of how it integrates with the EMC's product Ionix, in particular Smarts. If you look across the top of the console, you'll actually see that we have incidents, problems, availability, capacity. These are all tabs in which you can drill into, as well as our CMDB. The CMDB can be populated. It is populated if you have integration with Smarts configured, as well as anything that it discovers itself. The one thing that we do that's doesn't align with a normal CMDB is that we do keep historical data within our CMDB for both instance and performance. We normally end up retaining around 13 months worth of data. We have a reporting section, and then under our workbench you would see things like the tools that we would have for, like, maybe putting things in maintenance and etc. We have a knowledge section, and then anything that you want to have custom under your pages. On the left hand side of the screen, from top to bottom, what we have is we have a global section which covers everything that would be in the environment. We have a service section is just that, and if you're familiar with the Smarts application, it would be their definition of a service using the BIM groupings that we have. We can also create them natively within the Oasis product separate of that. Underneath services, normally there's a relationship to groups. So for example, I could have a service here in our case which is ESM. Underneath that service I could actually have hierarchical groups and selective groups that actually make up this service. Hierarchical group being a manual group where you would put items in it through a configuration file, and the selective groups being a filter in which things would get added to it automatically. We also have applications, devices, and then components. So devices, applications being anything you would be thinking of, like from like web or SQL or etc. Your device would be your host, router, switch that you would see in the common information model, and then components would be anything that makes them up. One of the things that we do uniquely underneath the instance tab is that we only focus on areas that have instance. For example, you see that there's no router switches popping up underneath the device category, which means that there are no incidents underneath it. We only put a representation for where there's actually impact coming from. So for example, when we bring up this service offering right here for ESM, and we click on it and we go underneath it, it only puts our live events or active incidents here at the bottom. It sorts, and you would see that you have a console which you can add or remove from here. You can filter, etc. Underneath this, we also have the groups that are creating impact to this service, and all of these are filters as you come down. I will show you just in 1 second. The nice thing about it is, if you've went into like a map console and you've looked at a large group, what happens is it gets so noisy on the screen that it's hard to troubleshoot and focus on where the issue is coming from. We automatically remove anything that's not creating impact up to our service. The other thing that we do is, within any of these areas, whether we're looking at it from a group perspective, application, device, you can see what's creating impact to you or who you're creating impact above, and I'll show you that in just a minute. So for this one, we've seen for this ESM service that here are the groups within that are creating impact up to the ESM service. Here are the devices that are creating impact, and if you click on any of your groups, you'll see how it actually changes and it automatically sorts below it. If we look down here at the bottom at our event list, and this would be like looking at your console within Smarts as well, you'll see here that we have these processors. The one thing that you will note is that the source is Oasis, and in this case what we're doing is we're actually creating threshold events within the Oasis product. We send those into the Smarts console, and then we discover them. For these 4 events right here that took place, it looks like on 7068. This is the incident number for each one of these processors. We also created an aggregate events. So for these for processors, if you'd had like 8 processors you was monitoring, and they and you was wanting to ticket on it, we do leverage Smart's capability to do event aggregation. So if we looked at this, we started here, we saw that we had this service offering ESM that was having impact to it. We looked down and we seen that when we drilled into the Oasis production, and then we see here that our top generating device is this H24. So I've went all the way from a service offering all the way down to the events that are taking place. I can then drill directly into any of these events, and I can see my timestamps just as if I was in a Smarts console and what's taking place. The one thing though that is nice here is that I have the device name, my element name, and also I have my messages come through, and I have my instance name being the processor. Anywhere they are blue, you can drill directly into these. So I can also look and see here that I'm creating impact. This event is up to 2 of my service offerings, so even looking at it at the event level itself. And if there was historical data, I can come down through here because we keep 13 months worth of data, and I can see where this event has changed, where it's went clear, archive, notify, etc. through it. So instead of just losing it off your console, I have the full history of it. So what I want to do though is look into this further. So I'm going to click on the H24 itself and go right into the device. When I go into the device, we're going into a dashboard view. I'm not going to spend any time on this right now because we've already created a video about this, but I want to jump directly into reporting to show you more about it. You can then go under your reporting section for this device, and I can actually look and see what's actually taking place with it. So I'm going to go under the system metrics, and then I'm going to go under the average CPU utilization that's been taking place, and this is the load that's on the box because that's where I'm going to start with this one. And if you'll look, as you move your cursor across the screen, you'll see all your raw metrics. One thing is nice is as you got over here, I see this peak that I had, and I see that where my utilization jumped up. I can then look and see what actually was running at that point in time on this box. So using the SNMP, we're pulling this information, and this is off of a Unix box for this example, and I can see that Java was actually running at 6.7%. That was the highest one, and here's your top processes that are running. We do the same thing for your memory side as well. So if you will take a look down a little bit lower below our system metrics that we had expanded, we've got the different things you could go into, whether you're looking for your jobs in the queue to be able to see what took place, or we can go down here to your to what's taking place with your memory, etc. If we want to go underneath basically your raw reporting, we can go down here lower, and then I can break down each one of your processors independently. So for example, right here is those 4 processors that we saw that alarmed. We can actually expand each one of these, and we can go underneath the raw metrics and actually see what's been taking place per processor. By default, it comes up with 24-hour report, and as you can see across here, your time comes up, and your timestamp at the bottom and your metrics at the top. You can highlight an area, and it will drill directly into that area. You can put a start and an end date, or you can adjust your times across here. So for about default it was 24 hours. If you want to see 1 week's worth of data, you click on 1 week, and you'll see that you have now 1 week. Same thing from 1 month, 3 months, and then you just drill into any area like that that you're interested in, so you can see each one of your processors. If we go back under reporting again, here we can do the same thing for both memory, for your interface utilizations, etc. One of the other things that we have underneath your device that is helpful is a connectivity tool that we find a lot of people like. If you go underneath tools and connectivities, instead of having like a map view, what we do is we show the interfaces that come off the device. In this case, this is H24. I get the admin and I get the opera status for each one of the interfaces, and if we're monitoring the device in which these are connected to, they'll show up as well. And in this case, I can see that I have over here on this interface gigabit 2014. I see that I have switch 001 connected to H24. So if you have a question about where your connectivity is, or your duplex or your opera or your admin status, as long as we can pull it with SNMP, it will be available via this console. Wherever you see a link like right here where it's blue, if you click on it, it will take you to that device, and in this case we went directly to the switch, and we could look at its statistics as well. But coming back to H24 to look at it a little bit further, we'll go back underneath the sections and just expand them here. We also keep it up with how we're actually monitoring the devices, so that we give anyone that's looking at this actually a read-only view into it, so that you can come in and take a look at the device, and at any point in time you can actually see what is taking place from a monitoring standpoint. If you're an administrator like what I've logged in as, you can actually add your thresholds to it, and in this case you can see where we've got packages added at 90% here, and it creates a CEF3 event. In this configuration that we have right here, you can have this so that it does a direct notify to someone via, say, an email or a ticketing system, or it creates an event that actually would go into smarts for what we've been talking about earlier. If we go back to the dashboard and we're looking at the actual device, we'll just look at it really quickly. We see here again that this is a Linux system. We see that here's the active events for that device, and you see that where your file system utilization is, and you also see that the utilization. We put the top 10 over here in case you have a large number of file systems. If you go here to the middle, you'll see your processor utilization and your memory utilization. So what it's doing is just kind of give you a glance, and here's your interface utilization at the bottom. It's a quick way to be able to see the overall health of the system. But keep in mind is, how do we get here? Where we started was actually on the incident page, and so what we quickly went from was actually a service that was creating an impact. So this could have been any service that you had in your environment, down to the actual group that was creating impact to that service, and we was looking at these individual ones here. When in our case we went into production, we've seen that these were the devices that were creating impact to that group up to this service, and these were the events that were active associated with it. From there we were able to drill directly into an event and go, once we understood what the event was, we drilled into the device itself to be able to see what was taking place with that device. And so from the device perspective, we could have went back and looked at its historical data that had taken place with the device, or we could have went in, as we did, and looked at the performance metrics that we had been capturing all the way down to the process level. Thank you.